Hi everyone, my name's Declan McGlynn. Welcome to Friday Forum Live, Point Blank's weekly broadcast bringing you exclusive tutorials, artist interviews and industry insight every Friday live right here from East London. Today we are joined by Point Blank Creative Director JC Concato to give you a sneak peek into what you can learn on our courses by deconstructing a mix in Logic Pro. So today we are joined by JC, who's a FFL veteran at this stage, to dive deeper into a mix and show you the kind of techniques you'll learn on our diploma courses online in London and in LA. If you want to learn more about those courses, make sure you head to our website at pointblanklondon.com. And if you have any questions for JC over here, stick them in the comments and we'll get to them throughout the broadcast. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Well, thank you.
First things first, football. France playing tonight.
Absolutely.
They're going to win.
Yeah.
Okay.
Quietly
Right.
confident.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hopefully.
Good.
That's the plan.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so today.
FFL.
Yeah.
We're going to look a little bit, it's something different. We haven't really done anything like this before. It's a bit more open. We've got a session here.
I suppose it's more about the process than specific technique. I mean, be happy to look at some techniques I've used, but
of course.
But it's more about the process. What typically, I mean, this is a track that I've been asked to mix, not produced or in any way. Although I've done production for those guys before for this band, but this one was purely here's a remix that we're trying. Do you want to mix it? And so we can look at the process from what I've received first to the first version I've sent. And where it's kind of going.
The mix.
And it's still not finished. I've got probably another half a day on it. They've decided to redo vocal and finalize a few things, so there will be a little bit more. But I think we thought it would be an interesting way to show the kind of journey.
The transition of the mix
and the things you're working on. And it's something, very much like we do the way we've designed the art of mixing course on the BA and diploma, where you start looking at some techniques first, but then halfway through the course, you really start going through the process, and it's about applying that. And then the 3-4 last days of the course, which is at the moment what the students are doing, is very much that process with the tutor going back, say, well, maybe we want to try that, and going
so
back
acting like a client almost.
Yes, exactly. So I thought it would be really interesting. It was a good time to just do that.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So first, the best way would be to probably start playing the track. So it's kind of a pop track. Originally it was a rock, very rocky live drums, and they wanted to do some kind of electro glam. If you think golf rap, for example, you'll see the bass line is very much in that line, but it's also T-Rex, that kind of type. So let's have a listen quickly. I'll play the instrumental. So the first version I received was that. I'll bring a bit of vocal in as well, so you can see it in the context. And I'm just going to take you through some of those sections, because that's for me the first thing that I've picked up on. It's kind of a pre-chorus, and then there's a chorus. So that's kind of and for me, and let's go to the ad-lib to the very end. And for me, the first thing when I received that was that there's a will, because everything is MIDI, suddenly we've lost the dynamic that was in the original version, which was live. Obviously drummer playing, everything was like, chorus, as you expect, everything starts to explode a little bit. And here with this slightly more MIDI version, we were kind of very aware that kind of it's a bit staying on the same level all the way through. So typically that's something on mixes you're going to do, especially pop mixes. It's a pop track. And therefore, what you're going to have to do often is bring out the chorus more, make a progression. And also the story, the track is called Fall, which means crazy. So the idea is to make it go a little bit more frantic towards the end, So here's the premises of it. I mean, the track is quite well produced, but, in terms of, there was nothing drastically wrong. But there were definitely issues. I mean, you can hear on the first version, it's a bit boomy, the kick, the bass. And there's a couple of reasons for that. If we listen, for example, I'm going to close that version actually, and I'm going to open another one, and that's going to be the first mix.
So this is what you did to it afterwards?
Yeah, the first version of it.
Okay.
Like they sent me that, and that was my first initial kind of tweaks on it, few hours. It wasn't quite there. I knew I didn't have the dynamic right. I wasn't happy with the dynamic yet. It was a bit more, but not quite. Let's have a listen. So. So here are the verses. It's going up a little bit.
Build, yes.
You know, it's starting to be. It's building as well. So I was happy that the dynamic was better, but it wasn't quite right still. You know, I think it needs to be a bit more intense. You know, it's a bit. And also some of the feedback I was given from that track was the artist decided that they actually didn't like the snare drum that they had chosen. They didn't like some of the direction in the chorus, the fact that we were using less guitar but more synth. They wanted to try to bring a bit of that. So those were the feedback, but maybe it would be interesting to look at some of the issues that I had to deal with as well, typically with the kick drum. So I'm going to look at both kick drums here, and if I look, because I'm pretty sure I've got, yeah. So first of all, on the kick drums, there were a few issues. One of them was a bit of phasing originally. And the way I've addressed that, I'm going to play them separately. So you've got two kick. That's the main one, the kind of big one with the attack. But as you can hear, if I get rid of what I've done on it, there's a big boom that comes with it. Which
tail,
if it, and if it, especially it's a tail. And also, if you listen to the other one, the first kick drum which starts in the song but stays out all the way through, it's kind of an 808, damped 808 or 606, I called it 808. But playing together, they were causing us some problems. And that's the first thing I thought, okay, we need that solid, the bass and the kick. The nature of the song is we need that really solid. So let's have a listen to this kick now without... That's version 1, yeah, without the stuff I've done. And there, and here, if I now... Oh, let's take that out, actually. So you see, that's how it was.
Right.
There was a bit of flam at the front. It's actually phasing more than... So... Straight away, you see the couple of ticks that I've put on the second kick, which is the... You see how
did you make a decision about whether it was plus or minus, how many ticks it was? Just trial and error?
Trial and error, ears, you know, listen, and suddenly I thought, that feels already better. You know, straight away it feels better. I've tried some of the phase plugin that sometimes, you know, from the UAD you can use, the one I think I've demonstrated a few weeks back. But that didn't quite. I was like, okay, and the ticks is always something I use, you know. There's two types of phase. It can be a polarity, but it can be a time. And this one was more of a time. It felt to me anyway. Other people may deal, you know, in a different way. And then here, I've started to got rid of a little bit of up to 50, quite high on the big kick. Because the bottom end I thought was the 808 bringing that low end anyway. And I didn't want a huge kick on it. And then I also have an SSL on it with a little bit of compression, a bit of a dip in the kind of 300, another one at 800. That kind of boxiness I thought was really getting in the way. So straight away you've got that. I've gated it as well to make it tighter, and a compression with a slow attack to still make sure the click, because that's really what the part I was interested in on that. So here I've got that, and then the 808 I've done a bit of EQ here, a lot more gentle. There was a bit of resonance here which clashed with the other kick, so I took that off. I didn't cut as much. And then I've got again an SSL channel. For me, what the big thing about compression on kicks like that, like 808, I tend to try to do as little as possible, but as soon as you compress a little bit, especially with an SSL compressor, the bottom end becomes blue. It feels less boomy, less bassy, but in that instance, that's kind of what I wanted. So straight away now you see the kicks together, they work a lot better, a lot cleaner. So something else, because it's a question that we're getting a lot. I mean, I had exactly those kind of questions few days actually by your students. I was in the college and a student was actually working on a couple of tracks with a couple of kick drum on the same track. And the same question, were kind of like, how do I do it? And it turned out that he actually had copied the same kick drum twice. And he was like, is it true that it's a good technique? And I was like, well, I don't think it is, because you're going to get phase and all that kind of problem, you know. I think 2 kick drum is really useful if you're going to have 2 different sounds, one taking care of one part and the other one, you know. So I thought that was very relevant. There's still questions that we get a lot, I think, from people in general. And then if we look at the bass, I'm going to solo the bass here. I'm going to take it here, for example, on the bridge. So we've got one bass here, and then we've got a second sound. Both of them are with mini brute, as you can say. So they are audio, mini brute, mono, mini brute from Arturia. I really rate it. I think it's one of those modern synths that sounds
definitely for this
very analog. You know, very for that kind of sound. It's really rich, you know. So we've got those 2 sounds, and again they were probably a little bit clashing. So if I go with that, and then I'm gonna go with that on the second. Let's see what happens. See, the 2 bottom end are a bit clashing a little bit.
There is a sub-harmonic on the second one.
There's a sub-harmonic on the second one, which clashes a little bit. So, first of all, on the first bass, the low one, I've used, again, an SSL. Gentle compression. I didn't go too heavy on compression, because I knew, and you'll see, I'm hitting the master bus compressor quite hard as well, so you'll see why. Tiny EQ, tiny bit of EQ, cleaning up the bottom end, and the bottom end a little bit with boost at 50 Hertz, but then the deep around 200 and a low pass. And then there were some, again, I thought it needed another cut for some reason. It just didn't quite, so I did another one, because the curve are very different between the DCQ and an SSL. You know, so we've got that, and then on this one, what I've done is, you see straight away I got rid of the bass. I wanted to bring a bit of warmth, so I've put the Studer, the UAD on it. It kind of worked. I tried it, and I felt it was working well. And then again, compression here, a bit of EQ, this time around with a bit of accentuation actually on this kind of low, mid actually, around 800, just to give a bit of bite. I needed a bit of presence here. And now straight away the bass and kick works better. Everything is in its place and seems to work better to me. I'm gonna cut the. So that's where we were. Yeah. So like I said, about the feedback I had was they didn't like the snare. They wanted to try another snare. They wanted to see if we could make the chorus explode a little bit more. Some part that they had chosen, they suddenly realized they didn't like them so much. Like that little synth with that kind of filtered, heavily filtered kind of telephone sound.
Right.
Because it's kind of a big riff rock, and they felt it had gone really tiny and not really giving you the whole thing, which, you know, I agree. So I'm going to close this version, and now we're going to open the version where I'm at.
Okay.
And you're going to see in the chorus now how much more it opens up. And then you go towards the second chorus, a little bit more, and then by the time you reach here, and the reason mostly of that is basically I've achieved that by doing a lot of automation. Lots of automation. For example, if you look on snares and kick, I've got to bring the automation here. This one hasn't, of course, but this one has. So now you can see now.
So you've automated the kick?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've automated the kick. I've automated some of the snares. So to bring back little thing, I've automated the bass. the first one, but also the second one, the buzzy one, heavily, as you can tell here, going up slightly different sections, start to bring in between verses, chorus, to bring down. So there's a lot of automation going on everywhere, obviously on the vocals as well, as you can tell, and it's getting, but also I'm supporting that intention with the master fader. And if you look at the fader here, I mean, we're talking up to 1.6 dB to 0.
Yeah.
So, but it's basically going, emphasizing, you see the bridge, I'm going from -1 dB to 0 by the end of the bridge, hitting the ad-lib. If you add that to what I've done on the other instrument, suddenly you're really getting, for example, even here on the bridge, the clap, you can say they're going up by 3 dB. So you see that everything is, and you're hitting up, by the time I hit that chorus and that chorus, it's a bit louder, there's half a dB. All that really helps to build the track. You see, you go in the bridge. I've brought everything down here at that part of the bridge. And then the second part of the bridge is going up. And the clip is going up and going up. And by the time you get here, completely break it. So
yeah,
for me, so now I think we're getting there with the dynamic.
I think that automation of the master fader is a very much more of a pop thing. And then
a lot of mix engineers, when I've realized people were doing that, I was like, of course, it makes total sense. A lot of mix engineers, yeah, maybe more of a pop mix than dance, where dance, maybe it wouldn't work. Well, it depends if you have a story, depends on the song is evolving, I think. But I think it's valid on hip hop and anything. It's really valid on a lot of genre, It's that trick that a lot of mix engineers use to make the chorus jump at you a bit more. To create dynamic, It's
just one way to do it. Yeah.
There's one way to do it, So those were the main thing so far. I mean, do we have any question?
Someone just says JC is God. No pressure, mate.
No.
and then said, why is JC God? And that's just a whole other FFL.
It's another FFL, yeah. Let's not go there, shall we? No, but that's where we are. So that for me was interesting. And also one of the things I tried with that mix was, I've realized lately that I had gone a little bit plugin crazy in general. And this one I really wanted to go back to as little as possible. So as you can see, I've got quite a fair bit of SSL channel, because it's my favorite desk. That's what I'm used to work with. So yeah, I've always, But as you can see,
we have one in our second London facility.
And we are indeed one, indeed.
So duality.
Indeed, it's a wonderful thing, really. It really is, I think SSL works really because it gives you that sound for pop music in general. I think, but hip hop and all that kind of, it really works. So as you can see, there's a lot less than I normally would have in terms of plugins. And I've tried to go a more minimalistic approach. And what I wanted to show was maybe what I've got on the chain. Because again, that's something we discuss a lot, and a lot of people discuss about, should you have something on the master bus chain or not?
Mehmet Yari's just asked, can you show what's on the master bus? Yes,
on the master bus. Again, SSL.
Master bus.
And
everybody wants to know.
Absolutely, And again, it's something we do in the course, because a lot of people tend more and more. I've received so many mixes now with the limiter even on separate channels, and I'm so against it. So as you can see, I'd like to believe the mix sounds actually quite loud. I've already compared it to other stuff, and although it's not mastered, it stands okay. And once it's going to get mastered, it'd be fine, But I really wanted to keep the transient. I'm so keen on keeping transient. So again, I've got this setting on the master bus on the SSL that I tend to use, fairly low attack, fairly fast release, not too fast where the point where it's ducking and it's distorts a little bit. It distorts a little bit. So it's that ratio 2, and I'm hitting it. I mean, let's maybe switch off what's on the bus so we can compare. So here without the bus. Let me. Okay, so first the compressor. Let's see what it does. It goes from 1 dB to 3 dB reduction depending in parts of the songs. But it's quite gentle, but it's still hitting it constantly at a low level. So what it means that it brings a little bit what's lower, the low level in the mix. Rather than stopping the peaks, it kind of brings a little bit the low level. I wanted to do that because it's, again, in rocks you tend to make mixes more dense that way. By bringing the lower level, suddenly everything makes a bit more busy and dense. So it's one technique. And then with the EQ, Manley Passive, wonderful thing. Again, I've tidied up a little bit the bottom end, a little bit, as you can see here. And I brought a little bit of mid and 16K up there. But as soon as you bring that up...
Yeah, it's very audible.
So now both together. It's tighter, it's a bit more there, it's a bit more balanced. So that's that I would have constantly on my chain. I've always had, even in the analog world, that would be the SSL, often a GML EQ or Massenburg. And then I really wanted to, since I've got this plugin now, and I'm a big fan of Ampex, and I used to put to half-inch mix all my mixes back in the days, in the 90s, I thought, let's do that. So I've used, again, pretty much very similar setup to what I used to have when we used the real thing. And I've cranked it a little bit, I've gone up with levels here, so as you can tell.
Yeah, makes a big difference.
Makes a massive difference.
It's always hard to tell when the volume increases because you automatically think it's better.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful with that.
Absolutely. But you see, I'm still hitting a very reasonable, I'm not going crazy here, it has peaks.
Yeah.
But it's gonna, I know it's gonna sound loud.
The concept of automating the volume, your first impulse when you want to create some excitement is to add more.
Yeah.
But instead,
I've gone below.
Reduce the volume to make it more impactful later.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that'll help you with loudness when there's less elements.
Exactly.
Because you can make it much louder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the reason I did that as well is I know at the mastering stage you probably would start crank it up a little bit and you will lose that dynamic. Yeah. And actually, and that's something we do in a mastering course where we show that actually it's not uncommon, really not unusual at all, even at the mastering stage when you start actually bringing the dynamic like that to still do automation. So I know master engineer who might do the same trick that I just done here, minus half a dB on the verse. Yeah. Just to compensate for the limiter, what the limiter is starting to do. So I've started to do that process a bit earlier, I guess, in the mix, because I wanted it to sound as close as possible. Yeah. And I've taken it, I mean, it's not finished, like I said, but I've taken it out and it seems to work in cars and...
Yeah, you listen to it in the car?
Of course,
that's
the first thing
the
I
car
always
test.
Always first thing.
There was toms as well we could look at, wasn't there?
Yeah,
the tom. We got some questions for you, but we'll do the toms first. And
okay, let's do the tom first. So
yeah,
the tom.
Dive in.
Well, they wanted something. They were not sure what they wanted to do with the toms. There were a lot of tracks of toms. But the artist told me,
70s.
I want some, well, they wanted that kind of, again, glam rock, stuff, but in an electronic way. So, and they were like, we really want them to hear the attack, we're not interested in the bottom end. And at first I wasn't getting it, I was like, I like the bottom end of the tom, actually, they're kind of nice. So, but they were like, no, I've tried this plugin and the GGP drums, the wave plugin. Yeah, so I was like, okay, so I've put that, and let's have a listen with the tom at first, how they were. Kind of tuned, 808. So I've used that, the direct mid, just to rebalance the stereo image. I had something better, and then, but then I was like, they're a bit thin, and then suddenly I was like, oh, I know what the time reminds me a little bit of. There's this Depeche Mode track, Personal Jesus.
I do indeed.
You have those kind of
produce that.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. And I was like, I wouldn't mind a bit of that kind of vibe on the toms. They have those kind of toms with attack, and but it's a filter. So I suddenly started to bring that in. It's gonna come back here, sorry.
So they're modulating now.
Yeah, so they're modulating in just the auto filter. And I might start, a bit of drive on it, give it a bit of body. And a bit of room. I'm using the Ocean Way. I'm
big
becoming
fan.
a massive fan. Yeah, I've used that mostly for the guitars because I received those guitars. Where is it? Yeah, so I've got those guitars, and again they're stems. So one of the reasons I didn't have to do too much on some parts, it's because when they're stems, it means it's been mixed already from the original version. So here on the guitar, it's been sent to me mixed. There's not much I can do.
That can be a good thing and a bad thing.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. But for example, on that one, I did a little bit of space with the stereo width, which is this one here. Stereo width, just a tiny bit of here.
Yeah.
I love this plugin. I mean, the way it deals with width, it's really bring it. What you've got to be careful is that straight away, as soon as you put a little bit over 1.3%, which is not much, the side becomes so much louder.
Yeah.
And I've seen people putting that on mix, and suddenly your hi-hat and all the stuff on the side becomes just too loud, So you've got to be careful. And again, on the guitar, I've put the Ocean Way, and I think it works. Brings just a little bit of room.
Ambiance.
Yeah. So yeah, that's roughly the kind of where we are. Like I said, the mix is not finished, but that gives you a bit of hopefully an insight in kind of the back and forth and how you listen once and you're kind of not quite there yet on that.
Yeah.
But for me, what was interesting was the approach to the dynamic of overhaul. And the automation, I've been going on a lot on FFL about how much I spent time on automation, and that's the kind of stuff I meant. Where, and sometimes I take a lot of breaks because I do that in the afternoon, and I may take a break for 2 hours and then come back to it and kind of it's still not doing it, rather than, because for me I tend to get used to my mistakes and do things too quickly. I know it's one of my weakness when I mix. So if for 2 hours I trigger stuff, then I'm kind of assume it's fine. That's how it should be. And whereas if I take a break and come back to it an hour later, it's wow, straight away jumps at you. It's pretty obvious. It just doesn't quite work. So
yeah, cool. So got some questions for you.
Yeah.
DJ Harmonix is asking what synth plugin was used for bass. There's no plugin.
It's not a plugin. It's
a real
It's a Mini Brute Archer. Yeah. So it was a real.
Yeah. Those things are cool. They're quite cheap, aren't they? Quite affordable.
Yeah, really.
Brent Aspden is asking, do you tend in the mixing process to add a high pass to cut out the lower frequency of every sound, and will that give you more space in the track to make it more clean?
Yes, but not of every track, only where needed.
Yeah.
Because if it's not needed, then there's no point, and sometimes I don't do it systematically. Here I've done it more than I normally would, I've got to say. Partly because it needed to. It was just a little bit too heavy. And that, I think we're obsessed all to have big bass, obviously, and it has its place. But sometimes I'm noticing mixes that are too heavy in bass appear sometimes to be a bit slower, less energy, just because they have that kind of and it's quite comforting and it sounds warm, but at the same time, sometimes it goes against the energy of that coming at you. Yeah. So here I've done it a little bit more.
Transients.
Yeah. But the reason I've cut a lot on the low, some of the low, what just to get the bottom end clean and work. That's all. But I wouldn't do it systematically. I've seen people putting filters on every single track, and it's kind of well, if it's not needed, don't.
Yeah. Exactly. Corey Grimes is asking, what's the difference between a passive and active EQ?
It's in the components and the transformers and all that.
Yeah, someone's actually just answered it perfectly in the chat room. You see, guys, you should be in the chat room. DJ, I think that's Jesus. Let's say that. Good name. A passive EQ, I'll just read this out for all you guys. A passive EQ will use simple filters to reduce the signal level of frequency range. An active EQ has amplification built in so it can boost portions as well.
Yeah.
There you go. Perfect. And finally, For Her is asking, do you use de-essers on guitars?
You could, but I didn't on this track. Again, I didn't need it. I've used only one small de-essing on my vocal bus. Just a tad here.
SPL?
Yeah.
So on guitars generally?
No.
Right.
No, maybe acoustic ones. Maybe acoustic guitar.
Yeah, get rid of the plectrum
maybe
sound.
cymbal, hi-hat, stuff like that. But I tend to more EQ. I'm not a huge fan of DSs, to be totally honest. I don't find they work really, really well.
There you go. You heard it here first. They don't work.
No, they do, you know. But,
Yeah.
you know, as soon as you put it on vocal, it's really easy to make somebody sound like they've lost their teeth.
Yeah, that's all right. Though. Sometimes you want that.
And sometimes you may want that sometimes.
So, unfortunately, we are out of time for today's FFL. Hopefully you got a good taste of what we offer on our courses here at Point Blank. And if you want to learn a lot more of that kind of good stuff, make sure you head to pointblanklondon.com. We'll be back next week for another FFL, so we'll see you then. Cheers.